Welcome to the Action Network studio in New York City. I'm Maria Marino, and this is Green Dot Daily. We come to you live every weekday at 3 Eastern on the Action Network YouTube channel and the Action app. Coming up on the show, conference finals are set in the NBA, so we will preview those series. Plus, we got a Game 7 in the NHL between the Kraken and Stars. We'll get Nick Martin's best bets for that. And finally, in baseball, is Mitch Keller for real? We will discuss that with Sean Zerillo and get his picks for today. But we start in the NBA, where we will get a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Finals that went 7 games. This time, the Celtics are minus 500 to win this series. Per our research team, teams listed at minus 400 or higher to win either the Conference Finals or NBA Finals are 28-2 in the last 35 years. As we welcome Jay Money back to the show, Game 1 between the Heat and Celtics isn't until Wednesday, so the Celts have a bit of time to rest without having to travel. What are your thoughts on this series as a whole?
Well, I do think that the Heat have a puncher's chance, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't necessarily agree with the price being that high for the Celtics. We know Eric Spoelstra for the Heat is a very experienced head coach. And on the other side, for the Celtics, you don't have experience. You have Joe Mazzulla. It's his first year as a head coach. He's the youngest head coach in the NBA as well. So I do think there's a little bit of a mismatch there. The Heat have definitely been a banged-up team, in my opinion. They've had some injuries over the course of the postseason, but they have the defense to keep this one close. It's all about their three-point shots. Guys like Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent as well. If they can knock down some threes, that's their real only path to stay in here. But we know they have to do it defensively as well. Bill Mazzulla hadn't really been known for making adjustments game to game there. So just on the coaching alone, I'd have to give the Heat at least a little bit better chance than what the numbers would suggest. But obviously wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics overpowered them with their starting five and bench and were able to move on to the finals here for back-to-back years.
Totally agree. The Heat have been exceeding expectations all postseason, and as we know, they were very close to making it to the finals last year. Meanwhile, in the West, some more deja vu from the 2020 bubble. Nuggets are favored hosting the Lakers in Game 1 Tuesday. Who you got?
Yeah, I have to ride with the Nuggets here, at least for game one. They are laying minus 5.5 points, so I'll rock with the Nuggets in that one. They played really great at the house this postseason, going 6-0 straight up and 5-1 against the spread as well in the 2023 playoffs. And the Lakers will take a little time to get used to the altitude. I always say that's the main home court advantage that the Nuggets have. They like to run and gun at the house, where teams usually get tired. The Lakers are only 1-5-1 against the spread in their last 7 meetings playing in Denver. So they have not fared too well playing in altitude as well. It'll also take a little time for the Lakers to get used to a new matchup as well. Obviously going up against the Golden State Warriors, and they weren't playing a lot of defense as well, let's be honest. So going up against this Nuggets team, we're very well balanced offensively and defensively. It's going to take a little time to adjust as well. And new coach, Darvin Ham, right? You have going up against Mike Malone here, where he's a veteran coach, whereas Ham, it's going to probably take a little time for him to figure out the lineups. I do think the Lakers have a deeper team, but it's all about figuring out. So I think this game one, while the Lakers have fared well in both of their game ones of the 2 previous series versus the Grizzlies and the Warriors, I do think it might take a little bit time for the Nuggets. They're a different beast, especially offensively, trying to figure out Jokic, figure out the rest of the players as well. So I just think it'll take a little time for the Lakers to get used to a new matchup. And also, these teams played 4 times this season during the regular season. The home team went 4-0 straight up and against the spread. So for whatever reason, both of these teams have been really great on their home floor and not so great on the road. So I do expect the Nuggets to come out and take the first punch in this series and steal game one.
Definitely, and LeBron James in his career has tended to sort of feel things out in Game 1. That trend was sort of bucked when the Lakers faced the Warriors in the last series, but we know the Warriors were on low rest and coming off a 7-game series of their own. So you like Denver in Game 1. Does that mean you like them in the series?
I actually don't. I actually do like the Lakers in this series, but this is something that you want to pay attention to. When you're taking the series, you kind of want to have to gauge who's going to win game one, right? Because you could go ahead and take the Lakers for the plus 120 and to win the series, but guess what? If you think that they're going to lose game one, you will get a lot better price after that game one, right? So if I feel like the Lakers are going to win the series, but going to win game one, then you want to go ahead and take that series price prior to the game one because obviously they're going to be a favorite afterwards. But if you think that they're going to lose game one, you just sit it out, wait it out, get that much better number after game one. But something does tell me that they'll steal one of these first couple of games in Denver. I feel like if they want to have a chance at winning the series, you have to go out there and steal one of these game one or game two in Denver.
Really great advice on how to get sort of a better price for the Lakers if you do like them to win the series. Jay Money, thanks for joining us. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. To the NHL, we have a Game 7 between the Kraken and Stars in Dallas at 8 Eastern tonight. And check this out, since 2005, Game 7 unders are 40, 26, and 9, which is 60.6%, good for an 11.2% ROI. With that, we say hello to hockey expert Nick Martin. And sure enough, you like the under in tonight's game. Why are you leaning that way?
Yeah, so I like the under in this game, and you probably know I'm not like a big just blanket trend better. Like I'm not the type that just look at this and think it, automatically means this game has value. But I think it's a really good time to target this trend because what's happened in this series is that it's been drastically higher scoring than anybody would have been expected, or than anybody would have expected. The main key to that has been Jake Ettinger has been really shaky in net, and credit to Seattle, they have generated a lot of good looks, but I don't count on Ettinger performing like that tonight. I don't count on the Stars giving up as many easy looks in transition as we saw last time out. So to me, this just looks like a great time to play the Game 7 trend of games going under. Seattle's Game 7 matchup versus Colorado in round one was 2-1. I think that's more likely to be the kind of game here. When this series started, we were talking about a Game 7 with a total of 6. I think everyone would have been so happy to slam in the under, and I don't think things have changed that drastically. So to me, this just looks like a good time to get on kind of the way that people thought this series might look. Everything's kind of set up well for an under in this matchup.
Yes, a good time to ride that Game 7 under trend. What is the prop you like in tonight's game?
Yeah, so a little bit less square, but I like Rope, or a little bit more square, I should say. But I like Rope Hintz to get over 2.5 shots. He's been really good all playoffs long, super noticeable. He's had 21 shots in the 6 games of this series, and it's juiced at minus 140, but I still don't think that's enough. And then another favorable note to this is that Dallas continues to skate in a ton of blowouts all playoff long. I don't think that'll be the case tonight. Hintz has only played 20 minutes once in this series. I think he'll play 20 minutes tonight in the majority of game scripts. So I think it's just a square prop that makes a lot of sense. He's been really noticeable, should be highly involved tonight. So give me Rope Hintz over 2.5.
Hintz over. All right. Nick Martin, we got a Game 7. It should be fun. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Over to baseball, and Pirates starter Mitch Keller is having himself a season so far. How about that headline, by the way? In preseason, his odds to win the NL Cy Young were plus 20,000. Currently, he's at plus 2,500, and he's among the best in the league statistically. Let's bring in MLB expert Sean Zerillo. We'll do a little buy or sell here. So Mitch Keller, Cy Young, you buying or selling on that?
Yeah, I'm going to buy Mitch Keller for the NL Cy Young. There is actual skills growth in his profile, and it's kind of cool that we're leading off a segment talking about Mitch Keller to win the NL Cy Young, because just a year ago, when Green Dot Daily started, we were still chatting about him as potentially one of the worst pitchers in baseball, but maybe starting to break out of that shell with a new pitch mix, and here we are 9 months later, considering betting Mitch Keller to win the NL Cy Young. So quite the transformation for him in terms of a pitch mix, finding what works finally, but actual skills growth. Strikeout rate up 10% over last year, which is a huge growth when you see for a pitcher, but also something that sustains pretty quickly. So something that you can believe in for Mitch Keller. Strikeout minus walk rate also improved by 11%. He ranks third in the NL in both categories, strikeout rate and strikeout minus walk rate. And in terms of updated projections, Fangraphs Zips has him finishing 7th in the National League in wins above replacement, considering what he's done to date and what they expect him to do over the rest of the season. So like the way Mitch Keller is trending, pitchers who end up finishing in their top 3 in their league in wins above replacement tend to end up getting high Cy Young votes. So Mitch Keller definitely trending in the right direction, and I am buying what he's doing on the field.
The stock is rising. Now, from a Cy Young candidate in the NL to potentially one in the AL, Eduardo Rodriguez is plus 2,800 for that award. Buy or sell?
Yeah, I'd sell Eduardo just at that price. I do actually think he's pitched quite well this season. His walk rate is down. His expected ERA is below 3. So a lot of the weak contact he's generating is justified, but it's still almost impossible for a pitcher to sustain a 209 batting average on balls in play, a strand rate north of 90%. Those are metrics which are going to regress towards his career averages, 302 and 74% respectively. League average for those stats around 295 and 72.5%. So everybody kind of pushes eventually back towards league average in those metrics or their career averages, but it's impossible to sustain the levels where he's at currently in those. I think Eduardo Rodriguez is a fine pitcher. The Tigers finally getting out of something out of that investment that they made in him last season. I believe he can opt out after this year, though, so I'm sure he'll remain focused and continue pitching well. I just don't think he's going to be one of the top 10 pitchers in the AL at the end of the season. Updated projections, again, Keller was at 7th in the NL. Eduardo is only 13th in the American League, so would sell him at that price, but I still think he's very much a solid starter and somebody I expect to bet on a lot the remainder of the season.
Gotcha. Well, sticking with the pitching theme, Mariner starters are first in the majors in wins above replacement. Are you buying them as the best rotation in baseball?
I would in the current moment, yes. You know, there's a lot of injuries, pitcher injuries this season, and for that reason, I think I'm going to end up targeting teams down the line who I think are going to have the best offenses at the end of the year, which is not normally something I'd say for October, but as we continue to see these injuries mount, a lot of these rotations are falling apart. If everybody was healthy, if you reset all of the injuries from this season, I think the Rays clearly have the best talent and depth. Tyler Glasnow, Jeffrey Springs, Drew Rasmussen, Shane Baz coming back from surgery last season. Plenty of talented arms in addition to what they have in the minors. Taj Bradley down there. The Astros, too, they'll get Lance McCullers back at some point. They have a bunch of top-end starters as well. There's a lot of teams that have 3 really good starters. You could put the Brewers in that group. The Rangers, when DeGrom is healthy, probably go in that group. A couple of teams, though, who I think are sneaky, who people might not think about as having maybe top 5, easily top 10 rotations in baseball. The Miami Marlins, now that Yuri Perez is in the major leagues, got Sandy Alcantara, even if he takes a step back relative to where he was last season, still like a number 3 starter. Jesus Luzardo has taken a step forward. I like where Edward Cabrera is going to end up eventually. Braxton Garrett, former first-round pick with pedigree. So the Marlins have a ton of talent. And then the Red Sox as well. I think they're going to break out towards the end of the year or as we get into the middle of the season. Chris Sale's velocity is up. James Paxton looked pretty good in his debut. Tanner Houck, guy I'm generally pretty high on, and Nick Pivetta pitching better. So, and Brian Bayo, I think, is a good breakout candidate. So the Red Sox, when I was digging into all these rotations, they might have surprised me the most in terms of quality and depth. And I think they actually have a pretty solid group the rest of the way.
All right, so not crowning the Mariners rotation just yet. Let's get into your picks for Monday's slate. What are you starting with?
Yeah, we're going to take the Chicago Cubs in both halves. I projected their money line closer to plus 130. We just talked about a pitcher in Eduardo Rodriguez who's been very lucky this season. Probably the unluckiest pitcher in baseball has been Jameson Taillon, who the Cubs signed over the offseason. This guy's had tons of poor luck throughout his career. Injuries, overcame cancer, just an absolute incredible career he's had, but dealing with a lot of poor luck on the field this season. And that is actually surprising because the Cubs built a very good defensive team. They're top 5 in defensive runs saved. Dansby Swanson, Cody Bellinger, excellent defenders up the middle. And Jameson Taillon has a batting average on balls in play of 360. I said for Eduardo Rodriguez, he's at 209. League average closer to 300. So you can see the opposite ends of the luck spectrum there. Sometimes when pitchers carry a high batting average on balls in play, or in Rodriguez's case, a very low batting average on balls in play, you can see it in their expected ERA, which is factoring in batted ball data, and is going to tell you whether they're allowing a lot of hard contact or a lot of weak contact, and maybe their ERA may be more justified. Maybe a high or low batting average on balls in play may be justified. For Taillon, it is very much not justified. His batting average on balls in play, I said 360, but his expected ERA is at 3.8. So more than 2.5 runs below his actual ERA of 6.4. Taillon should have much better luck over the rest of the season. His strand rate also at like 56%. And the Cubs also getting the better of the splits in both ends of this matchup too offensively. They're a top 5 team against lefties. The Astros are a bottom 6 team against righties offensively. So like the Cubs from a variety of angles here. I think this is a really good side tonight. And Taillon hopefully gets some better luck the rest of the way.
So you're riding with the Cubs. Who else?
Yeah, take the Kansas City Royals also as a dog. Mitch Keller, a pitcher, or I'm sorry, not Mitch Keller. Brad Keller, a pitcher who I think could eventually maybe follow that Mitch Keller path and break out at some point. He seems to have the stuff. He just hasn't put the performance together on the field. But like Keller, how, Keller sort of broke out. He was showing signs that it was going to happen before he did. I thought it was going to come for Brad Keller purely because of what he did in the offseason, going to driveline baseball, totally overhauling his pitch mix. I believe I've talked about it on the show before, but swapped out his four-seam fastball for a cutter, changed his slider to a sweeper, added a curveball to the mix. It didn't work for him at the beginning of the season. He completely panicked, stopped using his curveball so much, has actually basically put away the curveball, started using his slider more than ever. So he's tinkering a bit. The walks finally came back in line with the strikeouts in his last start, but over his past 5 starts, it's been a mess, like 23 walks and 14 strikeouts. I do, though, see the arm talent. I see the stuff that's there. And eventually, I do think Mitch Keller, or I keep saying Mitch Keller, I think Brad Keller is going to put it together like Mitch Keller did. So betting on the Royals here in both halves, projecting them closer to plus 150. Definitely not a side I see as much confidence in as my bet on the Cubs, for instance, where there's that obvious luck factor sort of downgrading Taillon in the public's mind, I would assume. But a team like the Royals are probably going to bet on a lot throughout the rest of the season just because they're one of the worst teams in baseball. And you'll find a lot of overinflated value on them on a day-to-day basis. So down to about plus 150 in either half. Also like the under 9 in that matchup, but the Royals would be my preferred side.
Yes, and despite the fact that there are too many Kellers to discuss for today, Sean Zerillo, thank you as always for your insight.
Yeah, I got to keep my Kellers in order. Thank you for having me, Maria.
Of course. Remember, any picks we give out here on the show, like the ones you just heard from Zerillo, you can easily reference by following Green Dot Daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. That'll do it for Green Dot Daily. I'm Maria Marino. Thanks so much for watching. I will be taking a hiatus tomorrow, but Brendan Glasheen will have you covered, so I'll see you back here Wednesday at 3 Eastern on the Action Network YouTube channel and the Action app.